It's that time. The DCEU is dead. Praise Holla Jesus. Damn, this thing needed to die a long time ago. This might be one of the worst cinematic universes that somehow just kept going on for so fucking long. It should have died off as early as like the Universal like Mummy, like the Dark Monsters series died off, but nonetheless, it's finally dead. James Gunn is kicking it off again next year with hopefully a banger in Superman Legacy, but now that the DCEU is officially dead, it is time to take a look back and rate on the official tier list every single DCEU movie. Let's fucking go! We have Superman, no, sorry, not even Superman, just Man of Steel. Man of Steel was actually a pretty decent start to the DCU. It wasn't a horrible film. I honestly, even though I watched this film like 6 months ago, because I was rewatching some of the Zack Snyder stuff before Rebel Moon, I don't know if I could tell you what really happened in this movie, but you got Henry Cavill, and that's decent enough for me, I suppose. Batman versus Superman. This is a really bad movie. That's where it belongs. It's funny that this and Captain America Civil War came out in the same year. How did one get it so right and one get it so wrong? Because of groundwork. We had how many years of the MCU before Superman, fuck, I'm gonna get so many confusions in this video. We had how many years before Superman? Oh my god, I did it again! We had how many years before Captain America Civil War of the MCU versus how many years and movies did we have before Superman versus Batman? We had one movie before this movie, and we had like, what, 8 years of the MCU before Captain America? We got to see those characters and how their life stories affected their choices in that movie, and it really added to the effect. And they had this movie that they just rushed out, and I mean, honestly, just let me play you one clip from the movie, and I think I'll say everything I need to say.
You're letting him kill Martha. What does that mean?
Suicide Squad, but not the good Suicide Squad, the shitty Suicide Squad. The shitty Suicide Squad is really bad. Oh shit, it's really bad. It is a horrible movie. I honestly don't know how it got made. I love how David Ayer is like going on record to say he's shown his cut to other directors. They hail it as the greatest comic book movie of all time, and it's one of the best ever. Yeah, haven't heard that one before, buddy. I really do not see a world where Suicide Squad in any capacity is one of the greatest comic book movies ever when you did this to Joker. I just don't see it. The only shining light in this movie is Harley Quinn and Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I don't say this a lot because I think it gets thrown around way too much, the born to play that role. I think Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn was really one of those that was born to play that role. Like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine or Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. There's a few, but I think the term born to play that role gets thrown around way too much. But Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn is definitely one of them. She kills it in the role. She is the one shining light in the whole movie. And that one song that has like Imagine Dragons and all those rappers on it, that thing's a banger, dude. Oh my god, that was the best part of the movie. The credits with that song in it. So fucking good. Just for that song, actually, boom, above Batman v Superman. Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman was actually a surprisingly really good film until the final act came. This would have been our first top tier, our first James Gunn tier. What am I doing, boys? I just realized I didn't even give you a breakdown of the tiers we have here. So at the bottom, we already have 2 movies in this tier. It's the I'd rather suck the farts out my own ass than watch this tier. Pretty self-explanatory. We have horrific movie. We have bad movie. Okay. Why is this actually decent tier? Wow, fire. And then the James Gunn tier, which is not foreshadowing at all. But now that we have those out of the way, I'm really sorry that I forgot those. What a sin against humanity. I'll be repenting for that one. But Wonder Woman, it is going to be a wow fire movie because the first 2 acts are really good in this movie, where it's the fish out of water and her and Chris Pine. Their chemistry is really great. It's the final act that I have a lot of problems with this movie for that really ruins the movie. You have this whole message about how man actually isn't just like always good and they can do bad things and stuff, and there isn't always some god of war or whatever that's sitting there ready to stick his finger up every man's ass and play them like a puppet. She's almost believing it and stuff, and then what happens? Out of nowhere, this random side character bursts into a big CGI fireball and he's the god of war. Fuck off, okay? No. Leave it as an empowerful message. Just let the man not be good. Let men not be good. Let her believe that and see that and then that could go in and play really well into Justice League. Don't make it some, oh, she was right and there was some Hades or whatever the fuck they call it in the movie. The Justice League. This might be the worst movie in the DCU, only because it's not like it's a horrible film, but it wouldn't be the lowest in the DCU until the Zack Snyder's cut came out. And it's like, why the fuck did you cut this movie? Because of Zack, take advantage of a man who was having a very traumatic time in his life and cut his movie out to make something so awful, just actually so bad. And furthermore, how did the guy who created Avengers create something so absolutely atrocious in the exact same type of movie? I don't understand how this movie was even made, why they made it, how it got so fucked up. But yeah, after seeing the Snyder cut, this is the worst movie in the in the DCEU because of how much they butchered it. Aquaman, the only film in the DCEU to gross $1 billion. I'm sorry, I can't fucking speak straight today. It grossed $1 billion, which is really surprising because it had a pretty bad not a bad opening weekend, but not a $1 billion opening weekend either. You got Jason Momoa, who's, you know, just one of the most fun, charismatic people to watch on screen, and then you have the bed shitter in it, and the movie's okay. It's actually pretty decent. I'll put it above Man of Steel. I think that's where it belongs. It's not gonna blow your socks off if you're tired of the comic book genre, you hate the comic book genre or whatever. It's not the movie that's gonna win you over. But if you enjoy a nice little comic book movie, you'll sit down and you'll probably have a bit of fun time with it. Shazam. Actually, probably the best non-James Gunn film in the DCEU. I was really surprised coming out of Shazam. So much heart, so much soul, some actual funny jokes. It was a surprisingly funny, surprisingly heartwarming, touching little family story at the end of the day. And who doesn't love a good family story? Although I will admit there might have been some tonal issues when you went from an office full of people getting their hearts and lungs torn out by monstrous demons to Shazam doing the floss. Maybe a bit of tonal issues, but other than that, solid movie. Birds of Prey and the really long title, but it doesn't really matter because it's actually just a Harley Quinn film. Again, Harley Quinn is one of the best parts of the DCEU, and the movie is at its strongest when it is focused on Harley Quinn. You got the people who did John Wick did the action for this movie, so there's some really fun action in it. Ewan McGregor having the time of his life, and it's not gonna blow your socks off. It's a very fun movie, but there's nothing exactly fantastic about it other than the action. The action is there's some really fun action in the movie. All the sets and all the colors and everything. It's just very vibrant, fun movie. It's at its worst when it's trying to be a Birds of Prey movie because all the interesting aspects of the Birds of Prey are shoved in the background for the more boring aspects to be shoved to the forefront. Like the one character, Canary, Black Canary or something I think it was, had like this really cool backstory in the movie, and then they don't touch on it like at all. Like you could have done a whole movie just about her backstory, and they didn't. They just shoved it in a quick like little recap. But yet you have this drunken detective that I couldn't care less about be in the forefront the whole movie. I don't know. That was a really dumb decision, but when it's a Harley Quinn film and you're just getting some fun action, it's a really fun film. Wonder Woman 1984. This is a really, really bad film. I know I just said Justice League was the worst in the DCU, but this is contesting it. We'll put it above Justice League, simply because I can't put a movie with Pedro Pascal in the bottom. I just can't do it to myself. Life is good, but it can be better. It's still a really funny line. The only person who's actually giving any trying and is actually fun to watch is my boy Pedro. I love Pedro. I can't put him at the bottom of the leaderboard, even though everything else in this movie sucks. The stooping wishing stone gimmick was awful. The cheetah just... ugh. Like, all the CGI, not even just that fucking cheetah, but every bit of CGI. Just her running, you couldn't even fucking make her running look somewhat realistic. The horrible messaging, I'm not going to get in too much to it, but if you want, there's a really great video by The Closer Look. I'll have it listed down below if you want to watch. He does a really great job at explaining why this movie's so bad, and I just feel like I'm going to plug his video because he can describe it so much better than I can. But the messaging pretty much is just horrible in the movie. And yeah, there's nothing really to like about the movie except for our boy Pedro. The Suicide Squad, the good Suicide Squad, not the shitty Suicide Squad. The good Suicide Squad is a James Gunn tier. Can you believe it? It was made by James Gunn. It was absolutely, like, just so fucking fun. I saw this movie, like, so many times in theaters because I was just so blown away that I wanted to keep bringing people with me to go see it. What a fun fucking film. If you can make me invested in a character called Ratcatcher 2 and a character that looks like Peacemaker, you have done your fucking job. I do not understand how James Gunn is so great at taking such stupid characters like Polka Dot Man and making you just fall in love with them by the end of the movie. To the point where I'm openly weeping in the front seat watching Polka Man come to his death. Or Polka Dot Man, not Polka Man. That might be something different. But yeah, no, this movie, absolutely fantastic. So much James Gunn heart, so much James Gunn humor, so much James Gunn action, just so much James Gunn. It's like a better version of the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I love the first Guardians of the Galaxy, don't get me wrong, it was one of my favorites in the MCU, but this movie just kind of took that film and fucking slam dunk it in its face. This is just the ultimate version of what I feel like James Gunn wanted to make with Guardians. He was able to go R-rated, so you got to be a bit more stupid, a bit more weirder with it. You've done your job. And again, Harley Quinn, still one of the best parts in the DCEU. She was very fun. But man, the standout was for sure Ratcatcher and Bloodsport. They really steal the show. What a fantastic film. What a fantastic, fantastic film. But if you watch that film, you know that they teased a Peacemaker show at the end. And I really thought that I was like, this is going to be the first James Gunn thing I watched that I hate. Because I was like, why the fuck are you making a Peacemaker show? And then I watched the opening credits and I was completely blown away. The opening credits of this show have so much more humor, so much more thought, so much more interesting dynamics than most just TV shows do these days. I knew from the second I saw that opening credit scene. If you haven't watched the opening credit scene of Peacemaker, go on YouTube and just look up the opening credits. Like, it's just a video you can watch because it's so fucking good. Best opening credits in a TV show. And man, the rest of the show is really good too. It's an absolutely amazing, solid show. Easily the best thing in the DCEU. You have all that James Gunn heart. You have all that James Gunn humor, the James Gunn action. Everything James Gunn in this movie, in this TV show. James Gunn is what pretty much saved the DCEU. No wonder they're putting them at the top because James Gunn can't do any wrong. I'm sorry, but if Vigilante isn't going to be in the new DCU, I'm not watching it. I love Vigilante. He cracked me up all the time. Him and his dynamic with Peacemaker especially was just so fucking good. Love this show. Love this show. James Gunn, I love you. Now we get into the Zack Snyder's Justice League. Zack Snyder's Justice League is a much, much, much better version than the original Justice League. If you took out all the weird slow-mo, you'd have actually probably a very good film. There's just so much. I feel like if you haven't watched this, you're probably like, wow, really? Slow-mo? That's kind of a weird complaint to have of a movie. Watch this movie. This 4-hour movie, by the way, just keep account for how much fucking slow-mo's in this movie. Holy hell. Every scene is slow-mo, 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 slow-mo. It gets annoying and it really does drag it down after a while. I don't understand how you can take a scene like what Flash does in this movie where he literally rewinds time to save the universe, and you thought that in this version of the movie, the better idea was to have him like push a car with like 3 people, then immediately undercut that as a joke with Superman carrying like a building full of people, when you had the perfect scene in this movie that was just so powerful and so amazing. Why would you? It's just this movie is so good, it makes this movie seem so baffling as to how stupid it is. Black Adam. This is going to be our first okay. Black Adam is a very okay movie. There's some fun elements. I love Dwayne Johnson. I'm a huge Dwayne Johnson fan, and most of my videos actually have Dwayne Johnson behind here. Dwayne Johnson is an idol. I love the man. Then you had Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. That was really cool too. He absolutely crushed that. I thought that was such a cool character. And then everything else in this movie is pretty okay to just downright bad. The kid in this movie, one of the most annoying kids in any superhero movie ever. There's some iffy CGI here and there. There's some more leading towards bad movie stuff, but there's a couple of great things and there's a few okay things, and it evens out to about okay. Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Now, I didn't add a forgettable movie to. I'm actually going to change this. We're going to change this to I forgot this came out. Because I forgot Shazam! Fury of the Gods came out. I did go and see that movie, but I'd be lying if I said I remembered a single thing from it. The only thing I really remember is Zachary Levi throwing a truck at a dragon, because he said it in the trailer like 50 times, and I saw that trailer so many times because I go to see movies a lot.
I just threw a truck at a dragon. I love my life. I love my life.
I just threw a truck at a dragon.
So that's really all I remember from this film. I remember there was like kind of like implied pedophilia in a way. Why? That seems like something the DCU really like to do, was like just implied weird sexual behaviors. In Wonder Woman 1984, you had Wonder Woman pretty much raping a dude, and then in Shazam, you have a 5,000-year-old goddess dating a high schooler. Just some kind of questionable topics for sure, but you know, whatever. It's a fun kids movie at the end of the day. But yeah, there's not too much to like about this. I still think Zachary Levi was fun in the role. He definitely kills it as a kid in a full grown-up man's body. How much he had so much heart and story in the first one, and then in this one, you just have such a forgettable, bland superhero movie. It's like they really did not know where to go with the character, so they just did the most generic thing they could have done. The Flash. Tom Cruise said it was the best superhero movie ever. Steven Spielberg, I think, said it was like the best. A ton of celebrities said it was like the best comic book movie they've ever seen. James Gunn said it was the best he's ever seen. Fucking Jesus Christ probably would have came down from heaven just to say it was the best comic book movie he's ever seen. There was a lot of hype building around this movie, and then they announced that Michael Keaton was going to be back in it and stuff, and they honestly just made Michael Keaton more at the forefront in the trailers for obvious reasons. I went into this movie with very open-minded. I wasn't gonna be like immediately hating on it because of, you know. However, the movie is not the best comic book movie ever made, not by a mile. It is a very solid film in my opinion. Michael Keaton is definitely a main reason for that. He really kills it in his one final time as Batman. Now that the whole rest of the DCU is dead, I feel pretty safe to say that Michael Keaton probably isn't going to be on screen as Batman again. Maybe, who knows, we'll have to wait and see, but I'm just going to go on a limb and say. However, I think I just went in with a bit too high expectations just because of how much shit I've heard, and I got to see it like a month early, so I was even more hyped because of that. And yeah, it kind of let me down a little bit. I will put it in a wise, actually decent tier, but it's going to be close to the, no, I'll put it above Aquaman. Yeah, that's where it goes. It definitely has some strong suits. Some of the cameos like towards the end felt really forced. I thought the time traveling mechanic was a cool idea, but just not well executed with the whole like bowl thing. That was really stupid and didn't look good at all. When the movie focuses on the characters, primarily Michael Keaton's Batman, it definitely picks up the notch a little bit. It can be funny at times. There's some fun action sequences with two Flashes and stuff. Although the villain Dark Flash or whatever, that was the most predictable thing to ever happen. I mean, if you didn't predict that just from the trailers alone, you might need to get checked because you might be on the spectrum. But yeah, overall, fine enough movie. Blue Beetle. Now, this was one that I was actually kind of excited for because I heard people saying it wasn't actually bad, which from the trailers, it looked like the most generic, worn out superhero film I've ever seen. But then people said it wasn't actually bad, so I was kind of excited to go check it out. And no, it's pretty bad. No, maybe it's okay. It's not necessarily a bad movie. It's just, I'm so tired of this type of comic book movie. If you told me this was the first film fully written and directed and everything by AI, I probably would have believed you. It just feels like so make movie by numbers, sort of like robotic sort of shit. It was not a fun movie to watch just because I've seen this movie 30 other times. There's 5 other movies on this list exactly like this one. I'm so done with this type of comic book movie. I can't stand it anymore. I'm gonna butcher his name, but like Zolo Miranda, I think was his name, has a fun little performance as Blue Beetle. All the family is actually pretty fun. There's some fun performances. And if it was like 2008 right now or like 2012, I might have even come out saying this was an actually pretty good movie. But I've seen this movie 13 times. I saw this movie when it was called Iron Man. I saw this movie when it was called Aquaman. I saw this movie when it was called Black Adam. I saw this movie when it was called Man of Steel. I saw this movie when it was called Captain America: The First Avenger. I've seen this movie 5 billion times. I'm so done with it. So I just could not get the same enjoyment out of it that some other people seem to get out of it. And then finally, Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. To end it off, how did they end off? Did they end off strong? Did they end off great? They ended off pretty weak. I think it was a pretty bad movie. There was one single compliment I can give to this movie, and that is that Patrick Wilson and Jason Momoa had great chemistry. I loved their little banter and their little like when it turned into kind of a buddy cop film in the middle there. That was the best part of it. Jason Momoa is very fun to watch on screen. He's having a blast in this movie. Not to the extent of Fast 10. I think he was more fun to watch in Fast 10, but he definitely was having fun doing this, and it was fun to see. I couldn't care less about the story. I love how they like teased that Black Mantra was coming back and was gonna actually like go full Mantra mode. And then the second the final fight happens, he just gets all of his power stripping away and he's a fucking weakling again. That was just like kind of like, man, what a tease, am I right? And then it just becomes the most generic thing ever. I don't want to get too much in the spoilers, even though I just said a spoiler, but I'm assuming if you cared to see this movie, you've probably seen it by now. But I won't spoil everything, I suppose, since it's technically still in theaters and whatnot. But it's a fun enough movie because of Jason Momoa and Patrick Wilson, but it was a pretty bad movie overall. I see a lot of people complaining that it's not a good send-off to the DCEU. I don't think that's a fair complaint to have at all, because this movie was not made to be a send-off to the DCEU. When they were making this film, it was just another DCEU film. It's just taken so fucking long for it to come out that it ended up being the last movie in the DCEU, but it's not fair to judge it as the finale to the DCEU because it wasn't meant to be a finale to the DCU. It's just meant to be an Aquaman film. But even just as an Aquaman film, it's pretty bad. It's very enjoyable for like 30 minutes in the middle, and then it goes back to kind of like Blue Beetle, just movie by numbers sort of shit that I'm tired of seeing in the comic book genre. It's why people are getting burnt out. It's why they're not making as much money, just because people know every time they go see one of these, they know exactly what they're gonna get. At the end of the day though, peeps and champs, this is the official DCEU tier list. It's kind of sad to see it leave because it was fun to shit on while we had it. I never really fully got on board. It's definitely a little bit more bottom heavy. There's some good stuff up here and there's some decent stuff and then there's some really bad stuff, but overall, I mean, does the good outweigh the bad? Probably not. It's definitely not the MCU level that had a ton of great stuff going for it. Although recently the MCU's been trying to tie it for an even matchup between good and bad. The MCU's catching up there, so we'll see what they do with that. But yeah, this is what, if you want to catch up on the DCU for some fucking reason, just kind of watch the James Gunn projects and then some of these. And you can kind of leave it at that. You don't really need to watch anything else. I'm excited to see what James Gunn does with the DCU though. Superman Legacy. I hope he knocks it out of the park. I'm sure he will, because our boy James Gunn is our Lord and Savior. I pray to him every night. And toodles.